This is Captain Bill Wolkoff, and you're listening to Open Pike Night. This podcast is fucking historic.
Is this thing on? Hello, hello. Welcome to Open Pike Night. I'm your host, John T. Bolds, here tonight with some amazing guests on stage and in the studio to discuss the 2023 Writers Guild of America strike with one of our previous guests here on the Open Pike Night Stage. Joining me today are my co-hosts. The man who knows that your employer won't hand you a better life, you have to get out there and pick it. Host of Sudden But Inevitable, Jesse.
That's right, John. And if your friend's nose needs a better life, wait.
And the man who will make signs, hand out snacks, march in the streets, and come up with clever chants. Just don't ask him to sing a protest song. Host of Green Shirt, a newbie's trek through TNG, Cameron.
I did not prepare or write anything for this, out of solidarity.
And tonight, we have a guest returning to the Open Pike Night Stage. He's a tie-wearing fighter for his fellow TV writers, a strike captain of the USS Union Prize. He's fighting for the kind of future that Star Trek promises, boldly going to stay on this side of the picket line. Bill Wolkoff, welcome to Open Pike Night.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on. Yes, pens down, pencils down, laptops down, all writing devices down.
Sounds like we're taking the SATs here, man. So we do have some callers who sent in messages tonight, and Abby is going to start us off.
Hey, Open Pike and Bill. First of all, 100% support to the strikers. My husband and I are both proud members of a teachers union, and we absolutely affirm workers' rights and stand behind all of you. And because of this, Bill, a question I have for you is, what is something that you wish that the general public realized more about the situation and why you're going on strike? What's your elevator pitch for somebody who goes, oh, I don't know if I support that. Why should I? What are things people don't know about what's going on that you wish that they did? I know that happens on our end, so I'm 100% sure it happens on yours. All right, guys, hope all of you and yours are well, and, power to the people.
All right, Abby calling in once again with a great first question.
From a forklift?
I'm pretty sure crossing a bridge. I don't know. I remember the scene from Sneakers. So, yeah.
First, thank you, Abby, for the solidarity and the support from the bottom of my heart. We've had UTLA has been on our strike lines supporting us. We've had lots of other union kin outside of entertainment that have been on the strike lines with us. And it's very heartening to hear that. And it's a great question. I'm so glad you asked it because there's a lot that people don't understand. I think the simplest way to put it is the middle class amongst writer ranks is being slowly eradicated from this business. And that's probably the main reason that I'm striking. And I'm going to step outside of the elevator pitch for half a second to put into perspective where I'm coming from. I'm lucky, and I have to be fair to Star Trek and to Paramount that I have been treated well as a TV writer in these last few years that I've been working there. But I would like to also point out that I am the exception that proves the rule. And the rule is that most writers in both movies and in television are finding it increasingly difficult to eke out a middle class living in this business. In the last 15 or so years, since more and more movies and TV comes out on streaming, the studios and the companies have found loopholes in which to diminish the writer's presence and take the writers out of the process as much as possible, which they are fine with and they are happy with. And what that means is that most writers, especially in TV and also in movies, are lucky if they work 10 to 20 weeks a year. They're just stringing together gigs. It's so hard to make a living as a writer right now. And people work really, really hard to join the Writers Guild and become professional writers. Sometimes it takes years. It took me 15 years. And now people who are finally becoming professional writers and joining the guild are entering a world where it really is a gig economy, and that's not sustainable. And I'm lucky on the show that I'm on right now, that the show that I had to stop writing on when the strike happened. But my next show I might not be so lucky. And I should add that it was really due to the showrunners on Strange New Worlds who fought to make sure that we were treated well, and it was a fight. To be fair to Paramount, they approved it and treated me well, and I've been able to work not quite a full year, but like the good healthy portion of the year since I've been on Strange New Worlds. But it's so rare. It's almost no shows are like that. When I tell people that, they say, "How did you get that job? Does that job exist anymore? Why can't I get it? Because I have to I have to drive an Uber when I'm not, on staff. And that's the environment that most people are in. So I'm striking for all of those writers and for future writers who are inheriting a gig economy and not a career.
Yeah, I remember one of our previous interviews, and I think it might have been you, was talking about how the writers on Strange New Worlds are producers also, and talking about what such a big deal that is. And I didn't understand at the time why that was such a big deal, and now I'm finding out because of the strike. So what was it? What was the point where you, in your writing career, where you went, you know what, this system isn't working. We need a big change here. Was there like a moment or a dawning realization? What was that transition?
Well, I think you know that I've also worked extensively in animation. And most kids' animation isn't even covered by the WGA. It's covered by a different union called the Animation Guild, which is IATSE 839, Local 839. And the contract for IATSE 839 is not great for writers. So I've really felt how difficult it is to string together a career and just be able to have, this is not about super rich writers. They only make us up a small percentage of our ranks. This is about middle class writers who are just like everybody else. In kids animation, it's extremely hard to maintain a full career. You constantly have to be sometimes you have to hold two jobs at the same time, and you're always, scrambling to get the next one and scrambling to do development work while you're working on something, just to get by and just to make your year. When I was in that world, it came into focus for me how scary it is. And the studios and the companies would be perfectly happy for the Writers Guild to have, a similar contract to the way they treat IATSE 839. And I'm going to add this, like the gains that we make in our contract will then help benefit future unions when they go up for negotiation again. I believe, for instance, TAG, IATSE 839 goes up for negotiations in about either a year and a half or just a year. And all the gains we make, they can then make the argument for when they go up. And that's really important because there's a lot of great writers and great people and great artists in that union that are not treated well by the studios and the companies.
So when you, just real quick, when you say make your year, that you have to write a certain number of weeks to maintain the benefits you get as a member of the WGA. Is that right? Am I understanding that right? Like health insurance. I assume health insurance is probably the biggie these days. Not sure what other benefits, but you can't just be a member and not be productive at the same time to maintain an active membership, correct?
Absolutely. It's very easy to lose your health benefits in this business now. If you only work 10 to 20 weeks a year, you might not make it. And if a lot of writing now happens in what are called mini rooms, and that's where people who work in these mini rooms don't have enough hours and haven't banked enough in earnings in order to qualify for health insurance. My situation is fortunate. I was not in that position for these last 3 years since I've been on Strange New Worlds, but I'll give you an example of a time when I was, and it was on a non-union show. It was 2014 when I was on Star Wars Rebels, And that was a non-union show. So I had been working on Animation Guild shows, and my insurance at that time was through the Animation Guild. And I got a job working on Star Wars Rebels, and it was the way they structured the room. You would go in for writers' conferences for a couple days, and you would get paid for those days. And then you were sent off to write your outline and write your script. And you got a script fee, but you weren't making bankable hours or anything. And also, none of the money that I made went to health benefits because it was a non-union show. So I lost my insurance that year. And it was by the grace of Covered California, which is California's Obamacare, that I was but I had to, that was very expensive. I mean, it was not as expensive as insurance in the past had been because of, I do think covered care was helpful, but still, that was like I lost my benefit and was fortunate that I was able to get on to Covered California for that year. And I was working very hard on Star Wars Rebels, and I had a tough year that year where I did not have other Animation Guild jobs, or actually that's not true. I did have some development, but it was not enough for me to bank enough hours in the Animation Guild to continue my Animation Guild benefits. And it was only when I got on a WGA show after that I was able to rebank some hours and get insurance through the WGA. So that's how easy it is. You work on, you get the privilege of working on Star Wars. Yay. But guess what? You lose your health insurance. Yay.
We'll try and ignore the irony of Star Wars Rebels not being a union a union show.
I just have to throw in thanks, Obama, too. Put that in somewhere.
So you are a strike captain. What does that mean, and how did you become a strike captain? Is it an elected thing, a volunteer? What's the deal with that?
I was a captain through the agency campaign. In 2019, the WGA launched a campaign to change how agencies handle writers. And I won't get into the weeds on that, but the simple story of that was we wanted to stop packaging, which basically made agents our bosses in a strange way, and return the agency model to the classic model, which is where they made money when we made money. And so then they were more incentivized to get good deals for us. But that was a campaign. So when the WGA launches a campaign, they look for captains to communicate to members what the campaign is, what the guild's position is. And then those captains talk to the members and see where the members are at and see like what they're thinking about things. So then it was my job to, I was given a team of WGA members, and I volunteered to do this, where I would talk to them how they felt about their agents. And I would communicate this to my rep at the WGA. The captain is basically a liaison between members and the leadership, so that the leadership understands where the membership is, and the membership understands what the leadership is trying to accomplish. And that's the job of a captain. And then after that, they asked me to become a contract captain. The last time the WGA negotiated was in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. And we couldn't really fight for anything in 2020 because there was a pandemic, and we couldn't. It was just not the right time. There wasn't any way to use withhold our work if we needed to. So everything was put on the table, and all of the issues that we wanted to start fighting for in 2020 were kind of pushed to 2023. So I was a contract captain to building up into 2023, where I was adding to my team. Like the guild would send me new team members, or I would talk to somebody who didn't have a guild captain, and occasionally I would take their temperature about how they were feeling about the career of writing, and I would communicate that to the guild, and they would send out member surveys, and I would have to make sure my team took their member surveys, and all that is building up into like educating the leadership into what our membership is feeling. And then the leadership then assesses, like, okay, they look at everything that I've said and every captain, and there's hundreds of captains in the WGA. They assess all that information, and they look at what where the membership is feeling. And what they came up with was, we we did not realize that the career of writing was in as much danger as it is. And that, that was over a couple of years building up to 2023. And that's how the WGA then came up with their list of proposals that they brought to the AMPTP. And the AMPTP is the trade union for all of the studios and companies and networks and conglomerates that make TV and movies. After they were not able to come up with a fair deal with the AMPTP, then I became a strike captain, and now we're on strike.
Do you get a number one as a captain? Do you get a strike number one?
Or at least a red shirt.
I do have to point out it is like, and I've been saying this for years now, I mean, that I am officially a Star Trek captain. So
nice. You are.
That's not a very long list of people. That's pretty cool to be on that list.
What's your go phrase then? What's your strike phrase?
Fair deal now.
There we go.
It doesn't make a ton of sense outside of context on every bridge, but you know what?
Hey,
it's okay.
Miles O'Brien would gladly send you to warp on that. So we know that. The support for the WGA has been huge from other unions as well. TAG, IATSE, I believe Teamsters, DGA, PGA, SAG-AFTRA, like a lot of unions and other non-entertainment related unions as well. Is this a much bigger thing than anybody was expecting as far as the solidarity and support being shown?
I'm allowed to swear on this podcast, right?
Absolutely.
Please. You're encouraged.
It's fucking historic how much union solidarity we have had. Fucking historic.
It's fucking awesome.
It's so good to hear.
It's very different than it was in 2007.
Yeah.
The last writer's strike was 15 years ago in 2007, and IATSE and the Teamsters did not support the strike.
Oh.
And there was a lot of bad blood between, especially IATSE and the WGA at that time, and it is 180 from that right now. IATSE has been fully supportive of the strike. The Teamsters have been amazing. They have in their contract that legally they don't have to, if they see a picket line, they're not going to cross it. No. And Lindsay Doherty, one of the big leaders in LA's local Teamsters, has been such a great spokesperson for this. She's incredible. And she has been saying that there's no fucking way the Teamsters are going to be crossing a picket line. So the strike has been very effective in hurting production and slowing it down. And that's the only way we are going to get the studios and companies to come back to the table is if they start to hurt in their pocketbook. It's the only way. Mm-hmm. We have to use the power that we have. The power that we have is to withhold our work and to use our lawful picket lines to disrupt production. And I'm a captain at CBS Television City in the Beverly Fairfax area of Los Angeles, and the Teamster trucks don't cross our picket lines. Now, I will have to add that the studios and companies are very clever and are using union busting ways to try to get around that.
Wait a minute. I thought union busting was illegal.
You would think. Well, it is. But they, I'm sorry, Jesse, to break it to you, but some of the studios and companies, they haven't been, really upfront with us. they've told us some not truths. I was shocked that they would do that too, but and this is really getting in the weeds. But I'll give you an example. There is a new, as I understand it, this is a recent law, federal law that allows companies that are lawfully struck that also cater to other companies that are not being struck to designate areas that are called neutral for the other companies that are in their property to come and go without having to cross a picket line. So what does that mean? That means that every studio that has business that is not WGA affiliated can lawfully designate what they are calling a neutral gate. And this gate is not supposed to be traveled by any employees or any Teamster trucks that are affiliated with struck WGA productions. Now, would it shock you to learn that those gates are in fact being used by
okay. I have to say this. What I'm getting from you, Bill, is that the Romulans have set up a neutral zone and then violated it repeatedly. This is so cool. Like everything comes back to Star Trek. Yeah, like in case you're out there going, what's going on? That's what's going on. Okay, we do follow you on Twitter, which we recommend people do. And if you want to learn about Bill's Twitter handle, go listen to our other interview with him. It's really good. But seeing that solidarity there it's just very overwhelming. But yeah, to see so many separate people go, oh, they've moved the neutral gate, or the neutral gate is definitely not neutral. It's just like, why? Like, why is it so hard? And I know that this is what we're talking about. I have to be my emotional self and say, just pay your frigging writers, please. Like,
yeah.
I'm fine. By the way, I can wait as long as I have to for new Star Trek. But I stand in solidarity, and if I can do it, I think you can do it.
And let's be clear here. Anybody who's listening to this who hasn't had a chance to follow up, we don't expect everybody hearing this to be fully read up on what's being asked for. We're talking 2% of profits that the studios are making. We're not talking the things they really should be asking for, in my opinion, the 25 or 50%, but we're talking 2% that the writers are asking for. And this is a life-changing amount of money for thousands of people. So it's tens of thousands potentially.
But not for the people that are withholding it. They're fine.
No, it is not an unreasonable thing that's being asked for.
Thank you for bringing up that figure. It's actually 2% of the profits from our work alone.
Oh, okay.
The profits are, and revenues are astronomical, and they tout those to their shareholders all the time, and then turn around and tell us that there's no money. Jesse, thank you for saying pay the writers now. I would even, because this is very serious, I do want to be specific about it. It's about a fair deal. We are getting paid, but it is not a fair deal. So that's why I'm so glad you brought up the 2%. Like, it's 2% of the profit from our work alone. And to put it even more simply, we are asking to share in the success of our work when it is successful for the studios and companies. That requires them to be transparent and tell us when the work is successful, and they don't want to do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, this has been brought up before in other interviews, and people have discussed it. There are, writers, everybody, all of us are aging, and there are new writers that need to come in all the time, and they're getting an even shorter end of the stick. And so we're going to talk about what it's like for those folks coming in, and we do have a caller that is a great lead into that. Here's Jesse.
Hey, this is Jesse from Alaska. My question is, do you have any tips on breaking into the writing industry for film and television? I ask because I, at one point, thought I could pursue a career as a writer for film and TV. I have a handful of film and television spec scripts, and after spending lots of money sending them out, I got virtually no responses, and I kind of canned that idea. So now I'm pursuing a master's degree in space operations. Thanks.
That was Jess from Alaska, with a probably really common question, but also a probably very common outcome from that question.
No, I did not decide to do a master's degree when I realized I couldn't write TV, John.
In space operations,
Seriously,
which is super
so
cool.
Super cool.
I mean, Jesse, I got to say that is amazing that you are getting a degree in space operations. That's going to help you with writing too down the line. I think the first thing I would say is, Jesse, I am sorry that the business is not a great time to break in at the moment. This happens a lot historically in our business. When new technologies are brought into the business and the studios and companies start to use them, it happened with VHS. It happened with the advent of sound. I mean, it's happened over and over again in our business. They find loopholes in which to pay writers less, and it's happening again now with streaming. And it looks like it's going to happen with the use of AI. So that's why it's happening right now. To answer your question about breaking into the business, everybody. So I'm sorry. Let me finish that brief thought first. This is going to resolve. It will resolve. And I am striking for writers like you, Jesse, so that when you come into this business and you do make your success as a writer, that you inherit a world where you can have a career. That's why this fight is so important right now. It takes a long time for some people and it takes a short time for other people. And that is just the business. I was a late bloomer, Jesse. It took me 15 years to become an established writer. I have friends that it took 1 to 2 years. I have friends that took 5 years. It's a journey, and everybody's journey is different. And keep on your journey. What you're doing is the right thing. What you're writing, and now you're gaining more life experiences. So it sounds like you're discouraged, but I would say, holy shit, like you're doing everything right. And keep doing it. Just keep doing it and keep writing. And eventually luck will be shining on you. And you will have done all this work that you'll be in a position that you can maximize that luck when it is in front of you.
I have to ask really quickly, Bill, because you did mention the use of artificial intelligence in the industry. I assume you're mostly, right now it seems like most people are talking about generative AI and things like that. And I gotta say, like, because those seem to be based on a body of work that they go out and find on like the internet or, in the cultural milieu, it kind of seems like anything that would be generated, like if a studio were to say, give me a Scorsese style film, right? Like, how is that not just ripping him off anyway? Like, I don't understand why certain, I don't know, is it an amount of money or something, or is it a certain kind of person just believes that art and creativity are nothing more than a product? Like, do they truly not understand that? And isn't that where the impasse is? Or is it just they know that, but they're like, I got to maximize profit no matter what?
It's hard for me to disagree with you because I agree with you. I'm confused too. I think that it's a shiny new toy that lets them come up with a halfway passable script that is a draft that they can use, and like, oh, I can get something and then bring a writer on to do a pass on it and make it good. Well, and then I can make a case where I don't have to pay the writer because they didn't originate it. Well, this is great. That's basically what I think the studios and companies want to use ChatGPT for. I think there's a mentality in the studios and companies now that is even further separated from the creative mindset. Like, listen, studio chiefs in the past were rough and tough and like not nice to writers, but they were creatives. And we are now in a world where the people running the companies that are now conglomerates that make TV and movies are more beholden to Wall Street and more interested in growth above profits and revenues. They're not creative at heart. They will just try to find the fastest, cheapest way to get something made, and artists be damned. And it's really sad. The Guild has a very simple stance about how we want to handle AI in our contract, and that is this. Any writing under a WGA signatory contract must be generated by a human being.
I love it.
The last writer's strike, we saw a huge advent of reality TV, and this is, going to be very much the same thing. The shows that'll start to come out that are AI generated as a stopgap, if the studios drag this strike out longer and longer and longer, it is, it's the next, like you said, it's the next technology, the next thing. We'll know that if we see an episode that starts with a lot of people are asking about space, the final frontier, we'll know it's an AI generated Star Trek. We'll turn it off. But
if you're familiar with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon's new production company, Artist Equity, which seems to be based on giving a greater share of the profits to the crews and the people that make the film, do you think there's any chance we're going to see more creatives start their own studios like that? Not necessarily in the same way that like a musician would start a label, but like if we have artists like that are willing to, start a company and help fund it, it seems like if they can prove that model, it might become popular. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that's already happening, and I hope it's successful. I hope those companies can survive under the IP driven. And listen, I'm working on a big IP, but everything is so IP driven. It's harder and harder for companies like that to keep their heads above water. I mean, I don't know if you heard about the New York Times film critic A.O. Scott, who retired because movies just, and it wasn't like, I want to be very fair to him. He wasn't saying that he thinks Marvel movies are bad, but it's just, they've driven out like anything that's not that. And I do think that's a shame. Like that there still needs to be room for something fresh and exciting that's not IP driven. And we almost never see that anymore. And I miss that a lot.
So you'd mentioned all the many of the previous strikes and how the studios seem to keep screwing the writers over and over again. And I mean, that was one of the first things that occurred to me. The last one was 2007. There was one in the 90s. There was one like, maybe it didn't go to full strike, but like 7 or 8 years ago, wasn't there? Maybe it came close to a strike.
2017.
So why does that keep happening to the writers, right? Do writers keep having to strike and fight for a fair deal?
Because we're the ones willing to stand up for what we're worth.
Okay.
I don't want to, I'm not trying to throw shade at the other unions, but historically the Writers Guild is, and the Writers Guild is mobilized to do it. The Writers Guild knows how to do it. It knows how to educate its members, get the members ready for a labor action if it's necessary, and deploy them when it is necessary. The other guilds aren't, they haven't done it as much, so they're not as good at it.
Are you saying the Writers Guild knows how to weave a narrative to sell to the media and the people around them?
I think we're winning the PR war here.
Rally
with our
the people up to their
they
side.
definitely have the
Okay,
best
interesting.
signs.
Well, I was going to say, it's that writers write the best signs.
There are a lot of good signs out there. I know this one, the one that's behind me, just says fair deal now, because I want to be very simple in this message, like that, but I love a clever sign, and I've seen many of them.
We got another call here from a new caller joining us for the first time on the Open Pike Night Stage.
Hi, Open Pike Night. This is Angie, and I'm a first-time caller. Thank you for all of the great interviews and content you've been sharing with us while we eagerly await Season 2. And thank you, Mr. Wolkoff, for returning to speak to us again. I noticed your IMDb page now lists 2 episodes for Strange New Worlds Season 2, so I'm really looking forward to those. My question is, what keeps you creative and busy during this limbo time with the WGA strike? Do you pursue other writing avenues, and if so, what? Or do you have some other creative outlets that you enjoy? Thank you, and live long and prosper.
Thank you, Angie, for joining us on the Open Pike and for calling in. Anybody else who wants to call in can go to openpike.com/join us and do that. And if you want to throw some support to us on Patreon, go to patreon.com/openpike and check us out. Thank you to our 25-minute set patrons, Steve, Shatterhand, Pam, and Mark. So, yeah, what's your creative style during a strike?
Well, I got to say, I'm exhausted. Being a captain, I'm not only I'm a captain, I'm a lot coordinator, which is the main captain for CBS TV City. So I'm running the picket at that site. And Angie, it's been all that 24/7 for me. I mean, I've done early morning pickets. I've been, picketing during the day, just trying to keep people safe, trying to, keep morale up on the line. I have a megaphone on, my picket line. So I guess maybe I'm being creative there and offering commentary, as we're, and I try to read the crowd, I try to give commentary that fits the crowd so that I'm, not annoying them. But I think I keep myself entertained on the megaphone. They haven't taken away my megaphone yet.
So what's your one of your hobbies we've known from our previous interview is your giant tie collection? What has been your go-to strike tie?
Oh, I'm wearing them all. I'm wearing them all. I need more ties for the strike.
Once?
I need. At once, yes. I should do that one day. I should wear them all.
I think just put one more on every day. And that's how you can keep track of how many days it's been.
Good idea.
And
I
you don't
like
have to check Twitter.
Please help this man in the strike so he can take off these ties.
It's like, hey, studios, you really like Bill's not looking good, man. I don't know if he's even breathing under all those. Like, let's get back to the table.
Nobody has tried a tie strike, as far as I'm aware. We've had hunger strikes. There's labor strikes. Nobody has tried a tie strike. Wow, that's difficult to say.
Now, you covered this a bit with the AI, but another stake of this strike is it's not just the personal well-being of the writers, which we all here want you to be able to earn a living wage, but some people out there are selfish. They just want to know how this affects them. So with the current writing conditions, do you think there is an effect on the overall product? We hear these things about the mini rooms and, not letting the writers on set after they've written their scripts. Like, does this have an effect on the entertainment we consume?
Do you mean
the current writing conditions?
Oh, conditions like before we struck, meaning
Yes, yeah.
Right, before you struck.
What the conditions have done is forced us to work harder and longer for less money to keep the quality up. So a mini room, for instance, they will bring in a small group of writers to try to come up with a couple of more episodes to flesh out what the season would be before they commit to it in a very, very short period of time. And these writers don't have a lot of time to do that, and it lets the studios dither. And these writers might not be able to come back to work on the shows, and then they might have to come back to that room, like if it gets picked up, like which prevents them from getting other work. So there's that problem. But it's for a very short period of time, and they work really, really fast, and then they're dismissed, and then that leaves the showrunner like on his or her own to fix everything without any help and not getting paid at that point, like because the room's over, or getting paid very little. So then they work bonkers hours to make up that deficit. And basically what it means is the lower level writers are getting denied the chance for upward mobility and to understand how TV works. The upper level writers are being driven down into the ground and exhausted. The quality gets there because we're all trying to make something good, but the labor is suffering as a result of it.
Anybody listening, if you hear them saying, oh, it's people just not wanting to work as hard or being lazy, that is always an anti-union discussion tactic. Never agree with that. It's like if you're a home builder and they said, oh, I just want one more wall before I decide whether you're going to build my house. Ignore that. That is absolute union busting crap.
And just any normal person out there listening, when was the last time you saw your boss work harder than you? Like that, like seriously, just ask yourself that question.
Yeah. We know you can't talk about shows, but we are a Strange New Worlds podcast. So we'll say we're 4 weeks out from season 2 of Strange New Worlds. We're all looking forward to it. Like Angie said, we're looking forward to seeing all the episodes, but definitely it's good to see that your name is there on the credits. We know we've seen season 1. We know what great Star Trek you bring. So we're just very excited to be able to have that in the midst of all this chaos. And, it's just going to be nice to keep supporting the work you've done up to now while we support you also striking.
Thanks. I can say one thing about this, and this is what I'll say. I can't really talk about season 2, and I wish I could, but I can't because of the position that we're in from the studios and the companies. If they had made a fair deal, then I would be thrilled to talk about it.
Everything.
I'd spoil everything right now.
Okay. Damn you studios. That's what happens.
I do want to be fair to Paramount. Like the Paramount is one company in the trade union of the AMPTP, so they have to every company has to agree in order to make a fair deal. Do I know if Paramount's the bad actor in it? I kind of doubt it. I have a feeling it's probably Netflix.
No. Netflix?
I have a little experience with being squeezed by Netflix myself.
I have a vendetta.
And I've heard other people get squeezed by Netflix and in weird ways. I mean, it's
Weirdly?
yeah, well,
Now Cameron's
that came out
intrigued.
totally
Yeah.
wrong.
He's like, now I want to be a writer.
Cherry on top.
Now,
Creative ways is, I guess, what they're just very creative at finding ways to pay writers for less. And we're in an environment where all of the companies are beholden to streaming services that have a bit of a tech company mentality. That is very different than the way studios and companies worked in the past. And Netflix, they were a game changer, and they changed the way TV and movies are made. I would also say they broke the way TVs and movies are made, and it's made it impossible for us to have a career. And now we need to fix it. And if the studios and companies would fix it in good faith, would come to the table and meet our very reasonable proposals, then I'd be able to give you spoilers. Well, maybe not, but I'd be able to talk about how excited I am.
now,
Yeah.
and that, I got to be honest, the excitement is coming across, but I feel like we should probably ask, because we're a Strange New Worlds show. I am a Strange New Worlds fan child. Is there an ethical way to consume season 2 and not just the whole time be thinking man, they really screwed these people over and they're still screwing these people over? I don't know. Is there something that you'd like people to think of as they're watching season 2?
I wish I knew how to answer. I don't know how to answer that question. I don't know how to answer. I think the thing I think people should say is that the studios and companies should give us a fair deal. They should be angry that their TV shows are going to be delayed, and that for some shows it'll happen faster than others. Some studios have some stuff in the bank, but all broadcast shows, those are going to be delayed, and the quality of content is going to markedly go down in the next 5 or 6 months as a result of this. And people should be mad as hell about it. And they should direct that anger to the studios and companies. I did not want to strike. I had to strike. I am striking because the studios and companies stonewalled the WGA for months. They never seriously entertained our proposals. And we had no choice but to withhold our labor.
How can we best and most productively channel that anger? If we're not near a picket line, what can we as viewers and consumers do?
Google the AMPTP and call them and tell them to come back to the bargaining table and bargain in good faith.
If there is one thing we can do at Open Pike Night, it's get people on phones. So I think I think this is going to happen.
Call the AMPTP. Tell them the writers will come back to the table if they are willing to bargain with us in good faith.
When we asked for a one-word tease, are you able to answer whether or not we've seen that tease in the trailer for season 2?
I'm going to answer it in a very roundabout way because I really shouldn't talk about it, but I answered it. I answered it already on Twitter. So
okay.
Make sure you follow us there at Open Pike. And thank
Jesse
you. By
thought
the way,
you were being tricksy.
Yeah.
But since I answered it already, you feel free to go back and look at my answer.
We appreciate it, Bill. We promise to stop asking you about season 2 now.
Yeah. If there's anything that we haven't talked about yet that you want to make sure people listening to this, viewers, consumers of entertainment hear, please feel free. If you got something that needs to be said, you've got space to say it.
Thank you. This is a labor action. It's about labor being pressed by the studios and companies. We are delivering product to them, and they are standing on our backs. But we are standing up and demanding that they pay us for the value that we create, and we are standing up for the worth that we have. And this is not only happening in the WGA, it's a movement that's happening across the country. And I think that's why we've had so much solidarity, not only from our other unions in entertainment, but from teachers unions, from laborers, from plasters and cement masons. Every day I'm seeing new union members join our lines. Just yesterday I was in the line and I talked to 2 teachers from Sydney, Australia, who happened to land in LA yesterday on a trip to America, and they heard about the strike and decided to join us on the line because they had just struck in Sydney for teachers' rights, and they marched with us. Kevin and Claire are the 2 teachers that I marched with yesterday from Sydney. Thank you, Kevin and Claire. it's really unifying to find other workers standing up for their worth and standing up for their rights. And it's something so important to support because it's human beings. It's valuing human beings, and that's big. That's why I'm proud to be a member of the WGA. The WGA knows how to value its members, and I am inspired by other unions that value their membership and value the human beings that make up those unions. Human beings are made up of unions. Sometimes people talk about the WGA as this other, like, oh, it's these people in this room. I am the WGA. Every writer is the WGA. We are the WGA, and we are the ones that are standing up for our worth.
And they sure know how to pick a captain.
I'd say it's also valuing story and art.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
We at Open Pike Night, we're kind of a collective too. We don't have an actual union, but we do have listeners, and they have this message for you.
We just had an amazing season of Star Trek Picard. This is due in large part to the talented writers of that show. You could have the best actors, producers, directors, special effects, or whatever, but without the writers, none of this would be possible.
I just received word of the writer strike, and well, best of luck to them. While it may disturb the normal operations of our regular series, including Strange New Worlds Series 3 no less, I fully expect them to emerge the other side victorious with glorious contracts and a mortal wound struck to all those AI generators out there.
Just wanted to throw my support to the Writers Guild during this strike. The industry has changed so much in the last decade and a half, especially with streaming, and I just hope companies come to their senses quickly and fairly compensate these creatives who deserve to make a living doing what they love.
I support the writers because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have these amazing, emotional, raw episodes that our favorite series showcase.
I have been pro-union most of my adult life, and I intend to be pro-union until the day I die. Unions are the only way that we can really get a leg up in this world when it comes to, in this case, writers who are making a pittance compared to network CEOs that are making
billions for these corporations. And I know sometimes in fandoms we can argue about the writing in a series or in a show, but at the end of the day, the writers are the backbone,
the foundation of all that we enjoy in television and movies and other media.
The advantage the studios have been taking it's shocking. There's no other way to put it. And it needs to end.
They are the heart of the story, and there is no series without those stories.
And they're getting relatively nothing. It's disgusting.
So far, no real movement on the studio side, but they have to eventually acknowledge this and bring something fair to the table.
It can't be recreated with an AI. And I hope that they are shown their worth, shown their value. They put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into every word that comes to life.
Stand with the Writers Guild of America. I hope that this conflict is resolved soon.
Solidarity forever.
I hope for all of you it's sooner than later. But we're there with you.
Because writers are pivotal and vital to this industry.
Live long and prosper.
Thank you to Captain Idle, Kate, Mark, Michelle, Zoe, and Jesse for calling in to lend their voices and support with Open Pike Night for the WGA strike.
I'm a little emotional. I'm not even a TV writer, you guys. Like, wow.
That was great. I'm a little speechless.
You guys left a writer speechless. Congratulations.
It's not something a lot of folks can say.
Thank you for covering this. Really appreciate it. This was great to get to talk about all this. Thank you.
And we'd like to be a space that creatives feel they can come and just kind of dump. I don't know if that's the right word. Rant, I guess is the word. We want to be like an actual open mic. Like we want this to be a space that creatives feel they can use for good. So thank you for doing that, because you're setting a killer example, man.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. It's been a long night, and our guest has been on the picket lines now for 21 days, and we're going to let him go get some sleep. The number for the AMPTP is 818-995-3600. That is 818-995-3600. Call them and make your voice heard. Support the WGA. Cam, where can folks find more of you?
Yeah, to hear more of my nonsense, scripted or not, you can tune into Green Shirt, a newbie's trek through the next generation, where I am the titular Green Shirt watching Star Trek TNG for the very first time, along with John T. Bolds, it's not his first time, he's watched much of it, and is very excited that we have now reached DS9. So we did a big bonus episode on the DS9 pilot, and are now filling our midweek episodes with the DS9 Minute, a very quick, rapid-fire discussion of the DS9 episodes. So lots of fun to be had. Look for us, Green Shirt.
And Jesse, where can folks find more of you?
If you thought to yourself while listening along to this episode of Open Pike Night, hey, I'd like to get my question answered by a big Hollywood important writer and or Star Trek actor, then you can just go to openpike.com/join us and record your voice message right there. Of course, you can also follow the show on Twitter @OpenPike. We're also on Blue Sky now. Look for the same handle, plus whatever the Blue Sky addendums are. And follow us on Instagram @OpenPike. Be sure while you're at openpike.com to sign up for the Open Pike Night newsletter so that you know ahead of time who our next guest will be and how you can get your question answered by the people who make Star Trek.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. We are everywhere, especially at openpike.com. Go to openpike.com/join us to leave us a voice message. We are about to start Season 2 of Strange New Worlds, and we want your calls about the episodes, your thoughts, your feelings, your predictions, your tragic missed predictions. Give us a call, openpike.com/join us. Be sure to clean up after yourself. Don't forget to tip your servers. You can go anywhere you want, but don't cross the picket line.